Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Greetings from the WCO headquarters in Brussels, and welcome to the 2020 WCO TECH CON. My name is Milena Budimirovic. My colleague Viara Filipova and me, both from the Facilitation Subdirectorate of the WCO, will be your webinar facilitators throughout the TECH CON.
We will be leading you from one session to another and announcing administrative arrangements. So here are a few we would like to start with. For the purposes of the TechCon, we have commissioned the integration of two platforms provided by EventMobi and Kudo. Participants will be joining through the platform provided by EventMobi, while Kudo will provide the floor that will digitally connect our moderators, speakers, and interpreters. So participants would be able to type in their questions either through the activity feed or through the chat box on the EventMobi platform. But we will not be able to take the floor for a live intervention or question. We will make sure that your questions reach the respective moderator.
We hope you will enjoy the program we have prepared for you. During the 3 days of the event, we will have some interesting polls and a game with prizes called Find the Contraband. We will be providing more information on that, so follow us closely. The polls will run on the EventMobi platform under the Polls and Surveys tab, while the game will be conducted in the activity feed on the same platform. And now, without further ado, we would like to invite the Secretary General, Dr. Kunio Mikuria, to provide his opening remarks and then to launch the discussions under the first high-level roundtable. Secretary General, you have the floor.
Greetings from the headquarters of the World Customs Organization to all participants from the globe. I'm assisted by two moderators who are sitting very far away from me. So this is the reality of the COVID-19. But then I hope that we can be connected closely to make this event successful. We are delighted to see the impressive number of participants today. And I was told that it was over 1,200 participants connected. This is great. Of course, initially, we wanted to invite you to the beautiful beach in Bali, Indonesia, for the technology conference and exhibition. Unfortunately, the current situation doesn't allow us to do that. And well, so hopefully I could welcome you in Bali next year in November. Well, nevertheless, as the global crisis persists, we are happy to get together prominent speakers from customs, the private sector, international organizations, and the academia on the online platform. And this will enable us to engage virtually and discuss many interesting technology-related topics. Well, this crisis, we saw that it has unleashed the power of technology. So we are naturally very much interested in how technology can mitigate this pandemic. And during that time, of course, customs and the related experts and stakeholders are using technology. But at the same time, we are observing the increase of e-commerce because people are sitting at home and relying on, commanding goods and delivery of goods at home using e-commerce. And this is another challenge that we want to look. And back to the customs on the ground, of course, intrusive, non-intrusive inspection technology is important to help us. And also both customs and business are teleworking right now. And what will be the impact on the staff? And on teleworking and also impact on economic operator is interesting to see and hear. And there is always a question if this approach is sustainable. So do we have to continue this way, and how it will affect the future work on the customer's environment is an interesting one. In this connection, social distancing has become norm. And in the customer's context, it means using more single window, electronic payment, and of course, paperless trade. And so this will change customs operations even we can use this challenge for the opportunity for the future. And of course, we are also interested in other technologies, artificial intelligence, data analytics, blockchain, and Internet of Things, how we can leverage on those technologies, and what is the role of standards, especially WCO data model. Well, with those areas, I hope that we can build resilience. And these are the interesting topics that we would like to cover. And our speakers will really share their views with a sense of urgency. And we have already more than 50 speakers. And I'd like to thank all of them for their participation during the 3-day journey of TechCon. And also, TechCon was able to materialize thanks to our contributors and sponsors. And I'd like to thank all these valuable contributions, especially our corporate sponsor, Rapiscan, AS&E, S2 Global. My hope is that during the TechCon, we will all have an opportunity to enjoy some eye-opening sessions and will inspire all of us. As a leader agency at Borders, a customer has a responsibility to drive innovation and modernization through constructive and collaborative stakeholder engagement. I'm personally looking forward to gaining insight into how our members and private sector partners are driving automation in the spirit of the coordinated border management. We will start the TechCon with an overreaching topic addressed by high-level speakers. The discussion under topic 1 on key technology challenges and opportunities in time of crisis will set the scene for the rest of the event. And now we are moving directly to the session 1.2. It is my pleasure to invite the speakers to the first round table. We have 4 speakers joining us for the session and 1 video address. And all of their bios are available on the event website. You can refer to that. They are really prominent speakers. And they have all made a significant contribution to mitigating the effect of COVID-19 at the borders, and therefore well positioned to address this topic. 4 speakers are Mr. John Denton, Secretary General of International Chamber of Commerce. Since he's assuming the post in May 2018, we have had an excellent cooperation with him and through him and the ICC. And then Mr. Ahmed Al Halifa, President of Customs of Bahrain and Vice Chairperson of the Middle East and North African region. And he has taken up the role of acting council chair during these challenging times. And we have had a close working relationship. He drives and the council session right now. And then Ms. Rosine Uwamaria, she is Commissioner of Customs Service Department of the Rwanda Revenue Authority, one of the administration which has seen really a high level of resilience under the current circumstances. So we are interested in hearing her experience. And then finally, Ms. Carol West, President and CEO of the Canada Society of Custom Brokers and Secretary of the International Federation of Custom Brokers, IFCBA. And she is well known as member of the private sector consultative group, while giving us the insight on what is happening on the ground and jointly explore a possible solution. And well, custom broker is really next to customs officers representing the business. So I hope that we can hear interesting insight. Now I'm addressing 3 rounds of questions. First round will address challenges faced by each of them and through the COVID-19. And the second round will address the role of technologies and gaps, especially technology gaps observed. And the third round will look into what were the quick wins and some of the longer term plans. Well, we have approximately 50 minutes for this session. And if facing a time constraint, I'll limit the questions to 2 rounds. But then hopefully we can have an overview of what the COVID-19 means and what we can do with this from these excellent speakers. Now, first round of discussion will start, and both speakers, yes, both speakers, please press the request to the floor button on your down right. Great, all 4 speakers are present, so please don't touch anymore your computer because just we will, our operators will be in charge of giving you the floor. So my first question goes to our private sector partner, that is John Denton from the ICC. And the question will be that ICC represent, of course, voice of more than 45 million companies in over 100 countries. And many of them are small and medium-sized enterprises that have been especially vulnerable during the COVID-19. And tell us more about what has been the impact of the pandemic on small businesses in particular. John, please.
Thanks very much, Kunio. And can you hear me? Yeah. Thanks very much, Kunio. And it's great to participate with you. And as you say, I said up front, one of the great outcomes has been the level of cooperation between customer organization and the ICC. But in response to your specific question, the impact has been frankly devastating, and it continues to be devastating. SMEs have actually been subject to a supply and demand shock simultaneously. And we've had a fundamental shock to the real economy. As most SMEs rely upon supply chains, the volatility around supply chains has actually been a further complexity, though we should acknowledge the innovation and the endeavor of the private sector to actually ensure supply chains continue to function. And in many respects, the greatest threat to supply chains has been actually government intervention. And one of the things I would say in the context of talking to you and all the brethren who are part of the World Customs Organization and affiliates is that one thing we've seen is that a number of the challenges that SMEs have faced, particularly given the complexity of the supply chains they're attached to, has actually been the fluctuations in volume and the actual worsening of conditions by the creation of new customs measures and adherence to old paper-based practices that just don't fit the new normal at which businesses must now operate. I was heartened by your comments up front. This is a campaign we're running, which is actually to shift the whole trading world from analog to digital, and we're doing that in the midst of COVID-19. Well, I think we'll have to acknowledge that the maintenance of supply chains, customs and export compliance, and logistics is critical to address the pandemic, both to essential goods and to keep economic activity flowing. I mean, there's one thing that's for sure. I sit on the COVAX Act A Council, which is all focused on how we actually distribute equitably globally what will ultimately be a vaccine and therapeutics that could have effect. But unless the supply chains operate effectively and they're enabled by governments and enabled by customs arrangements, then the idea of a vaccine is fantastic, but if you can't get vaccinations to people, you will not be able to grapple with this huge public health crisis effectively. So that's something we're very mindful of at the moment. SMEs have also been subject to the new and unexpected customer requirements. And one of the consequences of that, in terms of the challenges, it's actually including border delays. And I know, Kunio, we've worked very hard together to try and find ways to ease that. But one of the problems with increased border delays is, it increases transportation costs. And there's a level of opaqueness about the regulations as they come in. And one of the other problems we see is there's not enough integration, I think, of customs thinking and customs nous and experience into some of the government responses. Because what is actually happening is two arms of government effectively can operate separately, and that's creating additional problems. But we've also seen there's been a reduced demand. There's been a demand and supply shock, and it's actually leading to liquidity shortages as well. And so there's some difficulties for SMEs to access emergency financing. So in sum, it's devastating, but we should also be very constructive in the way in which we look at how the real economy has responded, particularly through supply chains. There's been enormous innovation. Most of us have been able to get the goods we want when we want them. And let's not forget, all that has been done, as you said before, when everyone's working from home. But let's stop the interventions which are causing unnecessary pressure and complication for SMEs. And that's where governments need to work more closely with customs authorities and with the private sector to ensure that we have a much better integrated policy response. And my God, we're going to need that if we ever get to a point where we're talking about distribution of the vaccine and therapeutics. Thanks, Kunio.
Thank you very much, John, for your insight. Yes, customs tries to be supportive of SMEs without doing unnecessary intervention and all through the supply chain. But we can discuss more on this issue later. So next, Mr. Ahmed Al-Khalifa, you have assumed the role of acting chairperson of the council during this crisis, and it must be extremely challenging for you. And could you tell us more about what has been the impact of the pandemic on customs administration globally in your region as well as national level? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mikuria. Hello, everyone. First of all, let me express my pleasure to be part of this distinguished panel and thank the WCO on the organization of this technology conference. Wishing that you are all safe and that we all benefit of the upcoming sessions. The pandemic brought its challenges and impact in every part of this world. In the beginning, we had no clear guidelines. How do we deal with arriving passengers? Can we inspect goods? How long would the virus stay on surfaces? And many, many other questions. At the same time, we had to split our teams into smaller groups or bubbles. Flights became limited, land borders were closed, and lockdowns in some countries took place. The movement of passengers and goods dramatically slowed down, and teleworking became a norm. That gave, in my opinion, everyone some time to rethink and prepare. More guidelines were announced, and the readiness of not only customs, in my opinion, but the front line as a whole became evident. There was a clear surge in e-commerce, and that created a challenge where we had to increase the number of customs officers in that section. From a technological perspective, I will define the challenge, and the main challenge being the connectivity with express courier companies and the lack of pre-clearance in that type of cargo. I believe with e-commerce and no connectivity, we had to deal with all the goods when they arrived into the country. And that will define my further comments today and recommendations. Thank you, Doctor.
Well, thank you, Acting Chair, Council Chair. Yes, you mentioned about e-commerce, which is really something that affect small and medium-sized enterprises as well. So good, good relationship with what ICC has already said. Now, next is Rosine from Rwanda. I would like to ask you, what are the key issues your administration and your customs officers faced on the ground during the pandemic?
Thank you very much, Dr. Mikuria, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the World Customs Organization for organizing this meeting to be able to share our experience in dealing with the crisis caused by COVID-19. So the issues are so many because we are at the front line as customs and other border agencies. So we need to deal with huge responsibilities. First of all, we have to continue facilitating trade and also not compromising control. But on top of that, we have a huge responsibility of protecting the society by preventing the spread of COVID-19. So this is really challenging. Itself, the situation is really challenging. And we are requested to be vigilant to make sure that we win the war against coronavirus. And another challenge that we are really facing on the ground, that customs staff are facing on the ground, is that we are implementing a number of new measures. We are developing new procedures. We are reviewing our procedures to be able to quickly respond to the emergency. We have to take quick decisions because this virus is not giving us time to get prepared. But again, on this note, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the WCO because by the time we were busy struggling, trying to find a way we can keep the movement of goods going. For us, we couldn't have time to do research, and we got support from the international organization, especially the World Customs Organization, by issuing the guidelines that really helped a lot and on how we could review our procedures and how we could maximize the use of technology. And again, on the other hand, our government has done everything possible to make sure that staff on the ground are safe by providing all the PPEs, personal protective equipment, and enforcing that everyone is wearing a mask. We apply the social distancing, and by establishing the hand stations, the washing hand stations everywhere so that everyone keeps safe. And I'm happy to say that with all these measures that we have implemented, they have been very successful because from the month of March up to now, we have only registered only 3 to 5 cases of customs staff who have been tested positive. So and yet we are operating in a very high risk environment. So I can say that this is a success story that we can share. Despite all the challenges, we have been able to facilitate the movement of goods and we have been able to keep safe. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's remarkable that you have only a very limited number of cases because while the movement of people are restricted, customs had to facilitate movement of goods and exposure to sanitary risk was really frightening for me. But, also, thank you for highlighting WCO's efforts to get the best practices, sharing best practices and guidance and in close cooperation with the private sector. So the one who cooperated was Carol West from IFCBA. So I will ask you the question. The PSCG, Private Sector Consultative Group, played an important role in decoding the situation on the ground and reporting the challenges to the WCO Secretariat, and then communicating them more broadly to customs community. What have been the key issues for economic operators in general, but also for customs brokers in particular?
Thank you, Secretary General, and hello, everyone, from a very dark, rainy, and very early morning here in Canada. Parts of the experience with COVID-19 were reminiscent of the global recession of 2008 and 2009. So almost overnight, businesses closed, people were out of work, they stopped buying goods, manufacturing lines shut down, trade volumes plummeted, as did revenue collection by governments. And this was all familiar to us, but what wasn't familiar was the fact that the cause of this was a global pandemic and borders between countries closed. There was uncertainty, and business certainly doesn't like uncertainty. The PSCG was very active in considering some of the impacts and, in fact, some of the lessons learned from this experience. And there were several that I wanted to highlight initially this morning. I should provide the caveat that technology for us can't be considered in isolation. Technology is also influenced by politics. It's influenced and has highlighted, I think, the need for sound policy. And it also has importantly highlighted the need for political will in decision-making with respect to technology. So one of the things the PSCG observed very quickly was that decisions needed to be made urgently. And they needed to be the right decisions, and they needed to reflect input and support from the private sector in order to ensure that implementation of change could happen. And this continues to be true today. But the challenge and the reality is that existing consultative mechanisms may not work during times of crisis, and consultation with the private sector may be the first to suffer. So that's the first observation. Secondly, the PSCG highlighted the importance of interagency responsibility in managing COVID-19. This often doesn't come naturally, although the leadership of the WCO on both coordinated border management and single window has been very useful. So we were grateful for those guidances. We also highlighted the need for a common approach to defining essential services. And this was a key issue, not only for companies involved in transportation and clearance of goods, but also for people working for those companies. And we've talked a little bit already about people moving across borders, and especially crews which cross borders with conveyances. We also identified the significant growth of e-commerce and the importance of e-commerce processes. As a result of the failure of traditional bricks and mortar businesses and restrictions on movement of citizens, as has been pointed out, and many customs administrations are ill-equipped to deal with these volumes and haven't implemented the automated solutions required to support effective risk assessment and revenue collection on the scale that we're seeing on e-commerce. So as for customs brokers, just a quick word, coincidentally, I spoke with customs brokers from 16 countries yesterday, from Asia, Europe, Africa, and North and South America. They reported several things. First, as an essential service, they have been critical to the expedited movement of essential goods across borders. They had to very quickly readjust their workforce and their automated systems to provide for working from home. And many customs brokers are small businesses, and this is true all over the world. They had to cut staff as trade volumes decreased, and they took cuts in pay, even at management levels, to respond to this. However, they had good feedback about their relationship at all levels with customs administrations and their customs administrations during this difficult time while working remotely. And they're also hopeful about and starting to see signs of a recovering economy, which I think was very positive news. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Now, four speakers have given us the broad picture of what has happened and what the difficulties they are faced with. And now I would like to turn more on technology and what are the technology gaps they faced with. And my first question go to John. One of the areas that ICC will be focusing on in cross-border trade is digitization. Border closures and long delays have been some of the key challenges faced by economic operators. Were there any specific technological gaps observed from your point of view?
Thanks so much. Yeah, by the way, it's very interesting to listen to the other panelists and some of their experiences very much reflect what the constituent parts of the ICC are feeling. I already talked in my first intervention about the continued reliance on paper-based rather than digital, and we'll come back to that, I think, in the last section. But maybe I'll just focus on three key areas, and one is actually just incredibly practical, I think, and a concrete example. So border closures and long delays have severe impact on the temporary admission regime, also known as the ATA carnet procedure. And so many companies are unable to re-export their goods within the time limitation granted by customs authorities. So if customs do not offer greater facilities, the delay may lead to payment of duties, taxes and penalties, and then leave companies and ATA guaranteeing associations in a very vulnerable situation. The second area I'll touch on, and this actually does relate a bit to technology, that might sound odd the way I've put it, but the consequence of inadequate access to technology has also led to reduced hours of operations at customs offices. We've also seen decreased staffing levels. We talked about that before because of social distancing, and continued reliance on paper-based documentation again. And that's all contributed to delays at border crossings and shorter periods during which to clear goods. So that's interesting, but there is a cost to that. That's the point. It's actually resulted in increased costs for importers, exporters, and logistics operators, increased incidences of non-clearance, and created consequent congestion of storage facilities, which has impeded the flow of both essential and less essential goods. The last point I'd make, and this goes to adding to the pressures on SMEs in terms of financial pressures. So there's already unprecedented financial pressures, but this has been exacerbated with the stalling of economies because of the inability to pay fiscal charges on imports. Goods are consequently being held pending clearance and eventually have to be forfeited to warehouses. This leads to many importers becoming unable to complete compliance documents and or access funds for duty payments. These financial difficulties are directly related to port and warehouse congestion, which is generating increased demurrage and increased storage costs. So I just wanted to leave you with those three thoughts on top of the earlier discussion we had on paper-based versus digital. So thanks, Cuneo, again. I look forward to listening to my fellow panelists.
Well, thank you, John. You articulated on three areas which I fully see the impact on the private sector. And perhaps later we can address those issues. Next to the acting council chair, what were the technological solutions that have proved to be most helpful during the pandemic, and which are the ones you would have, with hindsight, already had in place before the pandemic?
Doctor, let me start by saying how interested I am in hearing the comments from the private sector, because I'm feeling that this is normal and we're trying to bridge the gap here. From my point of view, I think before I move into the technological successes that we had, we have to commend the people on the ground, the men and women of customs and every frontliner that has managed during this pandemic to follow the instruction, be adaptive, be flexible, and in some cases put in more hours to clear any backlog that took place. Some of the challenges that happened, and some might feel related to this, is that with the closure of land borders, the shipments continued moving or switched moving to the sea borders. So now with the number of custom officers that we had at seaport, we have to increase those numbers, whether it's air or sea. So this showed that we needed to be flexible and absorb the increase in other ports. So my commend would go to these men and women in the front line and every national task force that was and still working in this pandemic. Moving to the technology. I would say in general, we were ahead of the game in customs and in the WCO in many places of the world by implementing the single window system. That single window system allows clearance to take place from a distance. Tied up with electronic means of payment, that completely reduces the contact between custom officers and clearing agents, which was completely in line with the guidelines that was announced. The electronic approvals of other government agencies, pre-clearance, risk management systems were effective. And probably AEO program kept going normal in where I come from. And that expedited the exports of many major companies. We continued relying more on X-ray machines rather than physical inspection, and that is just to be in with the guidelines of reducing the contact between the officers and the goods. So in general, I think these are the technological solutions that helped us during this pandemic. However, I look forward into talking about what we need next, hopefully in the third round of questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you for making a link between the different speakers. Very interesting. Now, next, I would ask Rosine. Your administration showed a high level of flexibility during the crisis and introduced or enforced number of measures, as you've said, the implementation of new measures to facilitate the movement of essential goods. These include establishing ports near the borders that operate 24 hours, 7 days, reinforcing the use of online services available in the single window system, and continuous engagement with other public and private sector stakeholders. Tell us more about these initiatives and especially about the single window services, please.
Thank you. When the government imposed the total lockdown, one of the key measures that was also taken was to close the borders but continue facilitating the movement of goods. And what does that mean to the customs administration? It means that we had to continue facilitating trade, but at the same time we were requested to apply and enforce the preventive measures that was set by the Ministry of Health and World Health Organizations. So that required to have to review our procedures, as I said earlier, and to introduce a number of measures to make sure that we facilitate trade, but at the same time we are preventing the spread of the virus. So we've introduced a number of measures, and we have really reviewed our processes and procedures to make sure that we can quickly respond to the emergency. So today I would like to share with you some of the 3 strategies that helped a lot and contributed a lot to minimize the risk. The first one, strategy number 1, was to enforce and maximize the use of technology in all operations to minimize the human intervention. So under the lockdown, we did not stop our operations because we already had a single window, and with the single window, we were able to continue our activities, but because everything could be processed through the single window. That means all our key players, all traders, customs, and other regulatory agencies are connected to the system. So traders were able to submit their documents within the single window, and government regulatory agencies, including customs and the Bureau of Standards, were also able to process the clearance of goods using the same single window, and the traders or the clearing agents were able to get the feedback through the single window. So to us, single window we have been implementing a single window for the last 7 years, so it was not something new. So people were familiar already with the single window, but during the pandemic, the single window really helped to make sure that people could work from home, and we could support, and it has supported the continuity of our business. It's not only electronic single window. We were also able to enforce the payment online, because also again the exchange of cash or moving with paper could increase the risk of spreading the virus. But with the the mobile payments and also the online payments, were able to continue our facilitating the movement of goods. It's not only that, we also had the mobile declaration for those small consignments where they don't have to do a full declaration, so they were able to use a mobile declaration, especially small traders. Maybe I'll talk later about how we are facilitating small traders. And we also have the information portal where we could share the information so that people kept informed about the new regulations and about the procedures that were changing every day. On that one, I would also like to talk about another big milestone that we've made, and it's also thanks to the technology, because without technology we couldn't do it. We have established a very big dry port near the border, and that dry port operates 24/7. And just to give you a brief background, toward the end of March, we realized that there was an increase in positive cases, and the big percentage was coming from the borders, and especially it was linked to truck drivers. And we decided to establish that dry port near the border with a number of objectives. First one, we wanted to fast track the movement of goods by bringing all the service providers or regulatory agencies to a one-stop center, so that drivers or other traders could get their services that they would get from Kigali or other places. So they would get the service from that site, and they go back without delay. And that the main purpose of that was to make sure that we minimize the risk associated to the long distance drive, and also the risk associated with mixing with the society that along and the communities along the transit routes, because with that movements of traders and truck drivers, this could also increase the risk. But with that site, we were able to contain this pandemic with that site. And another objective of that site was to create an environment where the Ministry of Health will be facilitated to enforce the guidelines. Here, the site is equipped with a medical site so that they could do the screening, they could do the testing, they could also enforce the other preventive measures such as wearing masks, washing hands, and social distancing. And again, the site was equipped with a big yard where we could do the decontamination of trucks, so that every truck that goes to that site, to that dry port, was decontaminated. All these measures, again, have to control the spreading of the virus, but at the same time, we were able to clear 300 trucks per day. And again, we can say that it kept the risks of spreading the virus to the minimum at almost 0%. So that's one of the key milestones that I would like to share with you. And before I conclude, I would also like to share with you how we managed to facilitate cross-border trade, small cross-border trade, because most of the time, small cross-border trade is about small traders carrying small consignments, individual carrying small consignments, and under the lockdown, people couldn't move, so the cross-border trade could not take place, and the government could not afford to stop that. So we organized the small traders into small groups, so that into small cooperatives, so that selected members of the cooperatives could collect the small consignments and sell on behalf of other members of the group. And that to be possible, we had to introduce the mobile declaration so they could use the mobile declaration. No need to go to customs for a simplified declaration. And for them, some of them, they could not access our system. So, but with the mobile declaration, we had a simple app that anyone could use using just a smartphone. And again, the government decided to continue providing the incentives such as the waiver of import duty that is usually for small traders, but we continue to grant that benefits to small cooperatives so that the individual traders would not lose their benefits. So having said that, I would also like to mention that this was possible. All these projects we were able to implement them successfully because we worked with the private sector. We did everything. We started from the start, consulting the private sector to make sure that we keep the cost of doing business to the minimum, and also to make sure that the new procedures that we are introducing were somehow facilitating trade. So that's how we managed to contain this virus, and at the same time, we were able to facilitate trade, and not only goods coming to Rwanda, but also goods transiting to DRC and also goods transiting to Burundi. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for linking the introduction of technology to your new system to support small traders and also in close coordination with the private sector. So now I would like to ask Carol, focusing on technology side, we have been what has been the main concern and the gaps identified for you? Electronic submission of documents, electronic payments, or anyone else? That is what I would like to hear from you.
Thank you very much again, and congratulations to Rwanda and to Rosine for the terrific changes and advances that you've made in terms of facilitating trade. So it almost goes without saying at this part of the discussion that electronic processes are key, not just to facilitate the movement of goods across borders, but also, as has been pointed out, to keep people safe. So many employees in customs administrations and in the private sector have been working from home, and the reality is that they cannot be efficient without electronic processes. That's one of our major concerns. We also know that customs administrations are dealing with a shortage of resources, whether it's people or actual revenue. We do know that customs administrations are facing those challenges, and we are concerned about the impacts of that in terms of the capacity to make investments in technology. The expedited release of medical supplies and essential goods requires interagency coordination, and we talked about that. We talked about the importance of single window. We talked about the need for consultation with all players in the trade chain. But that's within countries. And one of our other concerns is that there has to be harmonization and consistency between countries. Now, the WCO and WHO did a terrific job in defining HS codes. It's a very useful piece of work that filled a gap in identifying priority goods. But there's still work to do in harmonizing those requirements across borders. We'll soon have the challenge of moving vaccines around the world with very stringent and very defined shipping requirements. There's a need for common expedited release processes in the movement of those vaccines, and leveraging technology to do that will be more important than ever. The cost of delays, both financially and from a human perspective, will be devastating. Technology also has a role to play in what our future workplaces look like. Many businesses are thinking about that. Office buildings have been standing empty for months, and many employees just don't want to return to them. So that's another piece where, again, technology has to turn its attention to maximizing the ability of people to do their jobs. And back to the idea of consistency and how important it is in the areas of paperless procedures. And again, a sort of thank you to the WCO for some of the work it has done. Those paperless procedures include automated systems, electronic data, and advanced electronic data, e-payment, risk management, process and movement of revenue collection processes away from the border. All of those things facilitate trade, and all of those things rely on technology. But they also are based on the WCO's revised Kyoto Convention and the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement to facilitate trade and reduce, again, the risk of physical contact. So again, maybe more of a recommendation leading into the next part of the agenda, but governments should accelerate the adoption of these existing tools, for sure. And thank you again to the WCO for the several examples of leadership and good practice in this area, and responsiveness to ensure that the private sector is kept informed and has the tools that it needs to work with its partners in customs administrations.
Well, thank you for showing well, your concerns and how even WCO can address those issues. Now, the solution part, quick win and longer term ones that I'm sure that many participants wanted to hear from you. So first, John, you have talked about the cost of paper-based procedures, and ICC has been advocating really the digitalization. And has this changed with the pandemic, and if so, in what way?
Well, there's more momentum behind it, but you know, when you look at, I just launched the ICC's Digital Standards Initiative in Singapore, and when you actually look at how much digitization actually has occurred, the impetus is towards it, but the actual reality is actually still lagging a long way behind. So I know we're still on time, so I'll just make 3 quick points. One, in terms of a quick win, join our campaign to get more and more governments to sign up to the UNCITRAL model laws on electronic commerce and on electronic signatures. That is easy and doable. We need governments to sign up so customs agencies can accept that. Come on board our campaign. WCO has been incredibly supportive, but we need to get that happening. I mentioned before the challenges we see with the ATA cargo system, but just to let you know, we are doing things about that with the WCO, and you should be aware that we are creating an eATA cargo system. We're digitizing that process. We are putting our money where our mouth is. We're doing what we say. So be aware of that. We're in the process of piloting that at the moment in a number of jurisdictions, but you know, we have high hopes that this will be another way of actually taking away some of the costs involved in actually operating businesses in the 21st century. So it's something we're practically doing. And the last thing I'll say in terms of mastery, we need to make certain that even when there's investment, and logistics companies are doing amazing things with kind of the digital installations they're putting in place, which allow nodes to operate, etc. But we've got to make certain that wealthier nations and companies themselves ensure that SMEs are able to access any digital innovation or any digital progress. We need to really focus on that. And be assured, my last point is that the ICC Commission on Customs is working on all these things. And please get involved if you can. We're working hand in glove, as always, with the WCO, and we'll be coming forward with some very clear recommendations. So thank you very much for the opportunity to share some of our thoughts.
Well, thank you very much for your very concrete suggestions, and certainly we'll get on board your ideas in continuing close partnership with the ICC. And next, I'll turn to our acting council chair. The role of technology has become even more critical today and in planning for the future. What do you think should be some of the solutions that customs can look into addressing as quick wins? And what should be a longer term aspiration?
Thank you, Doctor. Before I answer the question, let me highlight the problem. The problem is, if we're going to talk about medical supplies, vaccines, in Bahrain, for example, I have a representative on the National COVID Task Force team that knows of every single order that is coming. So we're ready to deal with that and expedite it as soon as it arrives. Bahrain is small, and we can handle, by being on that committee, any medical supply arrival. What is the problem? I will back up what Mr. Denton just said about SMEs. The problem with SMEs, in my opinion, is that we do not have, as customs, the information of their imports until the goods arrive. We're relying on custom brokers, clearing agents to help us out. But the SMEs, we need to help them out with having a solution to this matter. Customs worldwide would agree that if we receive the information prior to the arrival, we will be ready, we will be much faster in putting together the relevant team that needs to clear these goods, especially if these goods are related to other government agency approvals. Now let's jump into the solution. With the rapid advancement of technology, on the short term, I would say that blockchain technology, AI, and Internet of Things needs to be implemented as soon as possible. And I've listened to these words before on previous conferences, but I really mean it when I say they need to be implemented as soon as possible. Customs authorities, OGAs, shipping agents, the whole supply chain must be ready to implement these technologies. On the long run, we need to have a common platform to exchange the data with other customs authorities. We are in 2020. Trade has become global. E-commerce have become global. Shipping agents and companies, express couriers, have their global network. And I think we as customs authorities have not yet managed to establish a platform to exchange the data between us. And this is the weakest link, in my opinion. That is why I hope technology such as blockchain will bridge this gap and help us out. Now, what I need to highlight is if we manage as a customs community to become global and build this platform, this will be the basis of us becoming resilient for the future. And one final word I would say, Doctor, that any technology that needs to be developed should not be a monopoly. And I cannot say more on this point. The delay of blockchain was because of that reason. What needs to happen is we allow the companies to develop the blocks for each and every single entity, but the chain that connects remains open for everyone. And this is where we can help out the SMEs. Thank you.
Well, thank you for a very insightful idea that what will be the future for customs and, of course, with trade. Now, I'd like to ask Rosine, you have been doing your IT strategy. Has there any change? Is it on course, or do you have any plan for the future?
Only thing that I can share with you is that technology is the only way to go. As Rwanda Revenue Authority Customs Department, we have technology is and should remain our priority number one. So we'll continue to invest in technology. And today we're working on big data analysis because we want to maximize the use of risk management. We've realized that at some point we won't even be able to go for physical inspection, as if the pandemic comes again or if other things happen, we should be able to do our inspection basing on the data. That's why we are currently working on big data science. And in the future, we are looking at advanced technologies such as blockchain technology and Internet of Things, because we really need to have information. As Mr. Chair has said, we really need to have information prior to the arrival of the goods to be able, again, to use the risk management to have a targeted control instead of waiting for the goods to be in the warehouses and then we start to get the information. So again, I would like to conclude by saying that technology is the way to go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Technology is important. Now, Carol, you are also a PSCG member. What is the message from PSCG to customs community in terms of desirable technological capabilities and other areas?
Thank you again, Secretary General. First of all, administrations should use technology to leverage benefits associated with AEO programs for AEO companies. And they should also consider validation and revalidation of AEO status. And again, this is a very positive step, and the use of technology could be very helpful here, especially for mutual recognition arrangements. That work should not stop. And as good as technology is, and as useful as technology is for both customs and business, sometimes things go wrong at times of crisis. So business continuity plans are essential. It's not specifically about a particular technology, but it's recognizing that technology sometimes fails and to be prepared. So again, business continuity plans are essential, and advice from the PSCG would be don't wait to develop these until after things go wrong to build a plan and make the plan known. One of the other areas we've talked about a lot in the PSCG is about capacity building, and we haven't explicitly said that this morning, but capacity building needs to be intensified and delivered in a targeted and coordinated manner. I think the pandemic showed that capacity building efforts in the area of trade facilitation and modernization of clearance procedures have not been sufficient. And we need to focus on capacity building with the use of technology and leveraging technology in many, many countries around the world. So again, a focus on capacity building for both private sector investment and for customs and global funding organizations to support. And I guess finally, just a general comment, be creative, be innovative, and be flexible. And this is, again, a message both for the private sector and for customs administrations. And of course, the PSCG is continuing to look at the impacts of the pandemic and looking at suggesting positive ways forward. So don't forget about your private sector partners. Thank you.
Sure, thank you very much. As you've heard, we never forget about the private sector because we are working very closely together. And thank you for reminding the need for business continuity plan and capacity building, because in the end, to enable technology, we need really capacity building of people. And so thank you for your comments. And now, I would like to announce a video address of Mr. Michael Outram, Commissioner of Australian Border Force. So we will hear from him about how technology has been and will be critical to help Australia prevent, respond to, and recover from COVID-19.
Hello. Customs agencies everywhere have been at the forefront of the global response to the COVID-19 pandemic. For Australia, an effective response has been particularly important as an island continent with high rates of inbound and outbound travellers via air and sea, and as a trading nation situated between the great economies of Asia and the smaller and more vulnerable ones in the Pacific. Throughout the pandemic, the Australian Border Force has remained true to our mission to protect Australia's international border while facilitating legitimate travel and trade. Achieving this has required the ABF to be agile, innovative, and to leverage our valuable international partnerships. Technology has been and will be critical to helping Australia prevent, respond to, and recover from COVID-19. For customs, technology enables both better detection of risks and better facilitation of people and goods that pose low risks. The pandemic has highlighted the need for biosecure borders, a layered system of defence that prevents new infections from crossing borders, as well as protecting against security, customs, and immigration risks. A biosecure border requires rapid, reliable, and early detection. It relies on accurate passenger screening methods at the border, and it involves seeking more data about the health status of travellers to identify those that pose a risk and those requiring additional screening. Passenger name records, or PNR data, was used in the airline industry to assist with contact tracing and risk assessment for COVID-19. The World Customs Organization has shared best practices in utilizing PNR data amongst its members to support a globally consistent approach. However, COVID-19 has highlighted significant gaps in what customs administrations know about cruise ship, rail, and road passengers. I welcome the work of the WCO's Permanent Technical Committee in endorsing the terms of reference and a business case for new passenger facilitation and control working group within the WCO. International cooperation on standardising passenger data for the cruise industry will be critical to enable customs administrations around the world to better identify and contain biosecurity risks. As the peak multilateral body for customs, the WCO should play a lead role in this effort. Such data flows between the cruise, rail and road transport industries and customs administrations will also help to restart these industries, which make a major contribution to the economies of many countries, including in our region. Managing the consequences of COVID-19 has required unprecedented levels of agility within the Australian Border Force, and we continue to collaborate with public and private sector partners here in Australia and overseas to balance economic and health outcomes. As part of our initial response, the Australian government restricted travel to and from Australia and implemented quarantine measures for arriving passengers. One challenge has been that we collect key passenger information from travellers entering Australia using a paper-based incoming passenger card. On the 17th of October, the Australian government announced a new digital passenger declaration, which Australia-bound travellers will be able to complete on their mobile device or computer. The digital passenger declaration will facilitate information being collected and shared more efficiently, supporting risk management before, at and after the border, including contact tracing. The digital passenger declaration will also allow certified COVID vaccination certificates to be digitally uploaded if and when they become available. This capability is particularly timely. Since 16th of October, Australia has reopened its borders to travellers from New Zealand. I look forward to Australia being able to reopen its borders in a COVID-safe way to travellers from many other countries as well. COVID-19 has radically altered logistics and supply chains. While the decrease in international air transport networks and the impact of the pandemic on overseas postal organisations saw a decline in year-on-year mail volumes, the overall trend in e-commerce has seen significant growth in recent years. To cope with this growing volume of international mail, Australia is turning to data and technology, a cornerstone of the WCO's framework of standards on e-commerce. Since 2018, we've been receiving a live stream of electronic advanced data, EAD, from Australia's postal agency, Australia Post. This data contains information about the consignee, the consignor, and the consignment itself. We've been combining that data with analytics to enhance our ability to detect illicit goods entering Australia through the international mail stream. Since July 2020, our data analytics operational capability and partnership with Australia Post has enabled us to identify and hold suspicious parcels for inspection. To build on this capability, Australia has also been developing advanced computer vision techniques. Computer vision will enable the ABF to improve its image and pattern recognition of objects by gathering data on the appearance, labelling, stamps and postmarks of parcels. And later this year, Australia will commence trials of computer vision, including cloud-based services, to assess its effectiveness in detecting indicators of terrorism and money laundering and illicit drugs in the international mail stream. This includes detecting scattergun shipments of drugs to a number of addresses. And as we look beyond the global pandemic, the ABF will remain focused on how we can assist industry and support Australia's economic recovery while upholding the integrity of our international border. The pandemic has increased the urgency of the ABF's customs and border modernisation efforts because trade and innovation will contribute directly to Australia's economic recovery. Australia's customs single window, our integrated cargo system, has served us well, but it's ripe for renewal. Through our 2020 to 2021 budget process, the Australian government has committed to a multi-year simplified trade system, STS, a reform agenda that will make international trade with Australia digital, simpler and more transparent. Simplifying and streamlining trade processes will save businesses time and money, supporting economic growth and jobs. The single window will act as a digital user interface through which businesses provide data to government in return for trade and customs services, with government agencies using industry data for multiple purposes. The single window is supported and promoted by the WCO to simplify and harmonise trade environments for businesses involved in cross-border trade. Indeed, the ABF has made use of the WCO's single window compendium in our modernisation efforts. The ABF is exploring our modernisation initiatives to support Australian traders, including a trans-Tasman secure trade lane with New Zealand, to use import and export data to facilitate movement of low-risk trans-Tasman trade, work with Singapore under our bilateral digital economy agreement, including trialling the digital exchange of trade documentation and exploring how our trade single windows could be connected to facilitate customs data exchanges, and a feasibility study on data pipelines to consider how data from shipping and logistics platforms could inform early cargo risk and clearance decisions. In conclusion, I urge all members to draw on the WCO's suite of tools, instruments, and capacity building to leverage technology in the COVID-19 prevention, response, and recovery cycle. And most importantly, the WCO offers as a forum for international cooperation and collaboration to enable us to compare experiences, to implement compatible technologies, and to share high-quality data. The international community is stronger when we pull together in response to a global crisis, and I thank the WCO for continuing to provide a platform for multilateral customs cooperation.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Utram from Australia. I received some feedback from the audience through chat box that some say that yes, blockchain and Internet of Things should be the future, and the WCO should be able to facilitate interoperability through the safe framework of standards and other tools. Well, now I would like to close this session by thanking all of our speakers for their time and valuable message. You have seen that even between the speakers, there was exchange and dialogue, especially customers and business. So this is the spirit of this TechCon. And I would also would like to invite all of them and you, audience, to take part in the rest of this TechCon. Please enjoy, and again, thank you very much for your participation.
The Secretary General and our prominent speakers for this interesting session. Before moving to our next session, I would like to remind you to take part in the poll that is available under the Polls and Surveys tab of the Event Mobi platform. For today, we have two questions as polls. The first one is, which is the topic you would like to hear more about in the next technology conference? And the second one is, please use 1 to 3 words to describe the future of technology in customs. And now, please enjoy a break with the video provided by our corporate sponsor, Rapiscan System, AS&T S2 Global.
Welcome back, dear participants. We hope you're enjoying the TECH CON so far. We would like to inform you that all the sessions will be recorded and be available on the event Mobi under the respective sessions. So the sessions from today will already be available tomorrow. We're now moving to a set of short interviews with a number of high-level speakers in what we call one-on-one sessions. We're trying this format for the first time, and we hope you will enjoy it. The 4 one-on-one sessions will be moderated by Frank Heyman, Head of Trade Relations in Dutch Customs. He is very well known to the WCO and to the Technology Conference. Frank has over 30 years of customs experience in customs legislation, international business, logistics, and enforcement strategy. He is recognized for motivating people and for driving novel ideas and solutions with trade, governments, and academia. Frank, you have the floor.
Thank you, Milana, and thank you, WCO and Dr. Mikuria, for organizing this excellent event. And although we miss, of course, the social context of the event, on the content we can manage, and we already see some comparison with the live events, looking at the fact that already after the first interesting session, we run out of time, which is normally on stage also the case. I'm very happy I can take you along a little bit in this small session with a few small interviews on key technological challenges and opportunities in crisis times. Working with the Customs Administration of the Netherlands, we also faced, of course, these difficult situations. We saw that the organization was suffering from the sudden impact. Our staff was ill. We had to take care of the safety of our staff. We had to take care of still guarding the borders. We saw a sudden drop of traffic with criminal organizations. They didn't bother about the crisis situation. And at the same time, we saw an enormous change of the international environment looking at e-commerce trade. People can't go outdoor anymore and order on the internet. And by ordering on the internet, it means that we already in October of this year, we had as much e-commerce trade as we had over the whole of last year. And looking back in 2005, we dealt with about 2 million declarations a year. And just yesterday, I had a company on the phone and they told me, Frank, I just want to inform you from tomorrow, I will be lodging 200,000 declarations a day for e-commerce products with your administration. So it's moving up to 50 million a year. Just one client. So you can imagine in these times of the pandemic, we are challenging safety, security, but also simply our enforcement and IT activities. And in that sense, I'm actually very, very happy to introduce the first speaker to you, Mr. Jonathan Fleming. We just saw the video of the corporate sponsor. Mr. Fleming serves as the president of SD Global, and he's responsible for leading the company's efforts to provide turnkey screening solutions for airports, seaports, border crossings, and critical infrastructure for governments and the private industry worldwide. Welcome, John.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, now I'm back. Jonathan, let's go to the first question. What do you think is driving digital transformation for customs at the moment?
Well, I think we've heard a lot about that so far this morning. Even before the pandemic, I think that at least single window systems and other digitization processes were underway. I think what the pandemic may have highlighted is the digital processing of inspection. And a lot of what I deal with day in and day out with S2 Global is the inspection process, and digitizing that process and making that data available into single window or other trade systems to facilitate trade quicker with less touch.
Indeed, thank you very much. That's a part of the safety of the officer, actually, and also the safety and security of the employees in business. Technology can assist us that we don't touch the goods anymore, that we don't meet the people anymore.
Yeah, I think actually, yeah, you're right. I think it does that. It also allows you to minimize your staffing footprint at an inspection point, where you can do remote analysis, where you're combining a number of technologies and providing that data at a remote analysis center so that you're protecting that staff, minimizing the footprint that is actually exposed to the trade conveyance itself. And in a digital environment, it allows you to be a lot more effective, efficient, and change your inspection protocols without a paperwork change. So it would, for example, I heard speakers earlier today talking about medicines and PPE and other types of trade where you might have an expedited process. And this would allow you to do that if you've fully digitized your inspection process as well.
It sounds all nice to digitize the whole process, but and there are a number of ways that customs administrations actually can begin the digital transformation. But in your experience, what would be the most important for organizations to consider first? Where to start?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one, from an inspection standpoint, and again, that's where I spend most of my time is on the inspection side. From an inspection standpoint, sort of identifying uh, what your possible processes could be. I heard about sort of continuity planning and planning for the future. And so looking at what data you want to collect, what is important as far as your as part of your inspection regime, what is important to you, and what sort of devices does that include? Sometimes it's a new technology beyond sort of your typical imaging systems or non-intrusive inspection systems to include sort of RFID or facial recognition or QR codes or weigh scale information or decontamination and elevated body temperature and sort of other biochecks that may be done as a result of the pandemic that I think we'll be dealing with for some time in the future. All these things, the collection of that data, the analysis of that data, and then the sharing of that data and those processes into a single window system, all will help not only modernize, make more efficient, increase the inspection capacity. I think you said it best. Even though trade may have adjusted and slowed during this pandemic period of time, the bad guys certainly didn't. And I think a lot of customs agencies around the world struggled with maintaining an inspection regime given the pandemic and the reduced staffing and the danger to the staff. And I think that's why when you look back on what's happened this last year, planning for the future and digitizing those inspection technologies is going to be really important just to keep trade going, but to keep inspection processes and percentages up as well.
Yeah, thank you. Indeed, you already mentioned it a little bit. It depends whether you're concerned with goods or whether you're concerned with people, with immigration, and but in both cases, the staff themselves need to be protected. We see customs administrations have different responsibilities in the framework of law enforcement. Part is focused on revenue generation, revenue collection, cargo inspections. The other ones on immigration. Do you see difference in the technology that helps the agencies to fulfill the mandates? So focusing on cargo, focusing on immigration. You already mentioned a little bit in temperaturing equipment, which is more focused on immigration. But in general, when you talk about data collection, would it be different?
Well, I think there's an opportunity here to collect that data into a platform that is flexible. I think there are certainly a number of agencies or even subsets of customs agencies, organizations that need specific data to do their work. and collecting that data in a format and into a platform that can be shared not only amongst the customs organization, but sister organizations as well, law enforcement, other trade organizations, and even the private sector to some degree, hospitals, et cetera, medical systems, is really key. And I think we have seen sort of moves clearly with the WCO to sort of homogenize formats, data formats with regards to non-intrusive inspection, UFF formats, et cetera, for imaging. But obviously, the inspection processes have gone way beyond just imaging alone, and a platform that is able to gather all that data and then share those data elements that are specific to the needs of each stakeholder, and do that in an automated way, I think is very important. I think also a platform that allows you to uh, uh, augment or modify your workflows. Um, a lot of integration platforms are hard coded in a way that you sort of develop a process and a consultation, and that's the process that you stick with. And then something like a pandemic hits that you're not anticipating, which may change your process significantly. And going back in with consultants at that point and rerouting where that data goes and how it goes there is a little too late. It's not the right time to do that. So a platform that not only can gather all the data and share it, but also can be seamless enough to modify its workflow midstream, or have dozens of predetermined workflows so that that information is distributed effectively depending on the commodity, or depending on the threat level, or depending on the risk of the goods or people.
You actually already mentioned one of the challenges in such a platform is about the data structures. I'm of course aware of the unified file format initiative that's running under the WCO for NII images. And we're looking at different data structures, and we see that businesses have their own structures, the governments have the different structures, and it's still quite a challenge to line them up all in a way that they can, let's say, be compared or talk to each other. So we're still setting up all kind of libraries to identify different data structures. There's also quite some challenge to go for the next few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, I would agree. I think UFF is certainly a big step, and that continues to evolve and add more data elements to it itself, which is very important. But I think the other types of, I guess I could use the word interrogation by various sensors, whether those are radiation portal monitors or a number of things that may fall outside that UFF format, are also important to include into an integration platform and share. And we've had really good luck, I think, with our current customer base and adapting to some of these challenges that have affected customs organizations, border crossing, trade and clearance and inspection processes, to be able to adapt to some of this, or add new sensors, like I said, whether it's elevated body temperature or decontamination, or some of the things that had not been considered previously, and sort of move those seamlessly into the platform and share that information as well.
This all part of, let's say, a digital transformation of customs administrations. I compare digital transformation of customs administration sometimes a little bit with data sharing in commercial supply chains. We all know that it's needed, and we all know that it's of high value. Nevertheless, we don't do it. What is actually the biggest incentive for customs to move up, to scale up this transformation? Speedy.
Yeah, I think it is a daunting task. It is not only to understand what is possible, and then adapt your operation to that possibility. Oftentimes it's done the other way. Oftentimes it's this is how we do things, and we want a platform that will fall in line with that. I think a lot of our customers have found that when they see the possibilities and what a change in operational tempo a platform can provide to them, they start reimagining their deployment of staff, their training of staff, the location of staff, all these other things that sort of fall down with that. So I would say, I think the first step is to sit down with subject matter experts that can explain what an integration platform can do, and then reimagine how your operation could be most efficient with the use of that. I would also say, think big when you're doing something like this, and try to include as many elements as you possibly can, and don't maybe focus on your specific and current inspection regime only. Think about the future and how adaptive that is. And obviously, I think there's going to be there's a whole community out there that have legacy inspection platforms that may not be compliant or capable of sort of UFF transformation. And so looking at platforms that allow for some of the legacy systems as well as the more modern systems that will be UFF compliant, as well as all the other devices that you may be deploying. For example, the biosensors that I keep mentioning, like EBT or DCON, or those sorts of things that are becoming more prevalent now.
We could stay discussing for hours, but the session is only 10 minutes. We're up. We have to move to the next speaker. Jonathan, thank you very much for your input and for sharing your insights. And hopefully at a live event we'll meet.
Thank you.
And we immediately move over to our next guest. And the next guest is Mr. Bong Che, and he's the Director of Multilateral Cooperation Division of Korea Customs Service, and has had just over 12 years of experience in the customs domain in several directorates. And now we're going to discuss a little bit about the practicalities of COVID-19. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to have a floor and sharing my experience in Korea Customs Service.
Okay, now let's move to the questions quickly because of time. Korea is known to be to have been very agile in its response to COVID-19 crisis, but nevertheless, you also had must have had absolute challenges in your customs administration. What were the key challenges that you faced?
All right, as you said, Korea Customs Service tried its best to respond as swiftly as possible and implemented several measures to address the COVID-19 crisis since late February this year. Korea Customs Service was fully committed to facilitating trade and readily responding to national emergency, including disruption of global supply chain. Also, worked on simplifying the import clearance procedure of facial masks to prevent further virus spread. Let me share some of measures we have taken during COVID-19 crisis in brief. First, KCS had established and operated customs clearance support centers for COVID-19 at major customs offices across the country, focusing its resources on safeguarding the global supply chain by facilitating the movement of inbound and outbound of raw materials for importers and exporters. Second, KCS operated a 24/7 customs clearance system to provide speedy clearance for sanitary products, medical devices, equipment, and raw materials, import for domestic manufacturers for their sound operation. Also, we set up the emergency response manual of Korea's e-clearance system, UniPass, to be prepared in the situation of widespread infection of customs officials. Lastly, KCS was also making efforts to address delays at airports and seaports, such as allowing cargo to be transported directly to manufacturing plants without entry into the terminal after arrival in order to increase the import of facial masks as demand has far surpassed during February and April when there was a widespread COVID-19 in South Korea. We therefore preemptively worked with the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety in charge of requirement and import verification of masks by streamlining clearance procedures.
Thank you. The majority of you mentioned sounds, of course, to me, very, very familiar. Being in the customs administration of the Netherlands, we had also similar challenges to facilitate the speed import of PPEs, raw materials that were needed for the production, And it's quite an achievement that you managed to set it up already in such a small time that was available, actually that was needed to arrange it. So sincere compliments for that. But did you also face any technological challenges during the period?
Mhm. Can you ask me again?
Did you also face technological challenges during the period of the implementation?
During the crisis, Korea Customs put the safety of customs officers for the first place of challenge. It's quite not exact answer for your question, but there are because KCS by putting officer safety first priority, KCS to prevent any further spread due to possible infection of offices, KCS started working from work from home partially. Korea Customs Service used its own stable global virtual private network, which stands for GVPN, by allowing all officials to log onto an internal network during work from home, which was opened for exclusive officials only before COVID-19 pandemic. Next, what KCS focused on was to ensure the uninterrupted flow of trade by guaranteeing 24-hour customs system stability. To do so, Korea Customs Service assembled 24-hour emergency response team, and we shared the list of emergency contact points, standby emergency duty, and revised a code of conduct responding to COVID-19. We also had a daily emergency meeting under the stewardship of Vice Commissioner. This was full-fledged action to prevent any disruption of customs network due to technical error and lack of staff members. In conclusion, there was no special technical challenge or barrier comes from COVID-19 in Korea Customs Service's case. But one thing I want to emphasize in here is the technological challenge comes from how people utilize the technology, not the technology itself. Be prepared and act fast.
Thank you very much. I know that you are in the lucky position that your technological development in customs was already at a very, very high standard, and I've seen your Unipass system, and you already were digitized in a very high level, so that was absolutely of your benefit. But seeing that it stays online for the whole period, 24 hours availability, that's of course very important. Nevertheless, did you learn something from the pandemic in the impact on your ICT strategy for the long term? And is there any particular project that you launched or are facing that you're really excited about in relation to what you learned from the pandemic?
To help you better understanding Korea Customs Services ICT strategy, I think I need to briefly explain KCS's IT story briefly. E-clearance system has regarding e-clearance system over the last decades. It's going to be really short. In 1990s, KCS launched EDI-based clearance system, and in 2000s, KCS launched web-based clearance system, and in 2010s, we launched smart mobile clearance system. Now we are using the various types of disruptive technologies such as big data, AI, and blockchain. We are also carrying out some of ICT projects such as AI X-ray system, e-commerce clearance platform, etc. Across the globe, COVID-19 has brought new social and economic trend, contact less and connect more. At the same time, the world economy landscape has transformed into digital trade. As such, in the post-coronavirus era, customs administration will also join the contact-free environment. In this case, future customs service will be provided on various platforms such as big data, AI, blockchain, and digital technology. To join the rank of this digital trend and intelligence-driven world, Korea Customs Service started developing Big Finder in 2018. And this Big Finder project that I wanted to share with you in here Let me elaborate about this. BigFinder, which stands for Big Factual Information Network for Data Exploration and Report, is a system to analyze the interrelations of high-risk networks using state-of-the-art computing technology for processing big data. It is a very strong risk management analysis tool in data-driven environment where big data is created and collected every day in cargo, passenger control, foreign exchange transaction. To give you a big picture of this, with a fast rising number of passengers, we have seen the increase of illegal trade and counterfeits, IPR and infringed products, and complex criminal activities. This resulted in technical issues and lack of staff members to manage various risk factors, making room for high-risk passengers to escape the meshes of the law. To solve this, Korea Customs Service explored the way to develop risk management analysis tool which is fit for big data environment. Following is the analysis logic of BigFinder. This system receives PNR and APs in real time and automatically checks the companions of criminal, their group patterns and relationship among passengers. Then the information comes out with the use of graphic DB and visualization, assisting customs officials to find the hidden possible criminal passengers in real time. So it actually under KC is not utilizing BigFinder nowadays because of the number of passengers decreased a lot because of COVID-19. But under this experience, KCS is now working to apply this model with similar logic to the selection of cargo targeting for inspection and illegal import pattern of delinquent taxpayers.
That's actually very interesting because it's referring a little bit to the previous discussion I had with Jonathan on the need of platforms and whether, let's say, the immigration part needs different approach in data analytics than the cargo parts. And you actually are now saying you could use the same technology, at least you're looking into whether the same technology what was developed for immigration can be used for your cargo inspections. But it confirms actually that you are indeed a very advanced organization in the maturity of IT and that the technological challenges is indeed looking to what's all possible in the future with a lot of technology that you already have available. Do you want to make a last remark on that? And otherwise we need to close down. We have to go to the next speaker.
Because of time limit, I already spent 10 minutes, I think. So it's better to request another speaker. I think it's better, I think.
Okay, thank you very much for your contribution. And then we move immediately to the next speaker. Our next guest is Erica Chavez Castillo, and she's the industry director for Microsoft in Latin America. And Erica has University of La Salle in Mexico somewhere in the 80s, worked as a consultant a bit over 10 years ago, and since I'm informed well, since about 2014, working with Microsoft. Welcome.
Hi, Frank. Good morning. Good night and good evening for everybody.
Yes, I just said good day when I started to.
That's better, I think so.
Makes it easier.
Yeah.
Thank you. Welcome. Now we just looked at it's a bit of the technology side in the inspection equipment. We talked to a customs administration, but from a Microsoft perspective, did you observe any challenges during a pandemic with your clients? Did you hear anything of them? What was particularly new for them?
Yeah, Frank, well, we have here during this morning session several of the challenges that most of the customs administrations has shared with us. But if I should say, we have faced two main important things that we have been working in this region, especially. First one is the collaboration. Given the fact that the customs administration is an ecosystem where there are a lot of actors, a lot of information, a lot of things that you have to share and use. we believe a lot that collaboration is one of the main things that allows the companies not only to keep the continuity of the customs ongoing, but also to ensure that we are having a comprehensive process model and also the continuity of the business processes, considering that the pandemic put us in the step of not having the opportunity to be facing one to each other. No? The second one, which is more relevant, and I've been hearing a lot of it, is the use of data. No, it is not uncommon to everybody that in these last years, and especially with the increase of e-commerce, the volume of data has increased a lot, and what we call it the 3B of challenge of data. No, B, because we believe that data has a huge amount of volume growth. No, we have heard that in 2025, the amount of data is going to grow from 14 zettabytes to 175 zettabytes, Frank. That means 60% growth in a period of time. No? And if we take in consideration that this amount of data, mostly 60% of these data become from IoT devices, on edge devices, that means a good challenge. No? And I cannot see in the future that the customs space are going to be one of the many industries that is going to take advantage of the IoT devices. No? So that acknowledge that amount of data, it's something that we have to believe and see how we can take it as one strategic asset of the operations in the customs space. So these two are the things that we believe has been challenging a lot of the operations in the customs space. Jonathan was mentioning the use of a strong platform, no? And that is real. I mean, the variety of data that we are receiving today is besides the volume, is huge, no? And nevertheless, also considering that information is mainly transactional wise. I mean, the customs has to react on time, in real time. How we can move our processes and risk assessment on a transactional based model, that's the way that we have to begin thinking for the future. No, these are the things that we believe that are still the most important challenges in the new operations today.
No, thank you very much. I completely agree with your last point in particular, where you say that the customs is still based on a transactional based model.
Yeah.
And we have to rethink this. And I don't know the solution, but at least we have to start thinking about what's the future, what it will be like. I mentioned the figures that we are dealing with, moving up from 10 million declarations in 2005, moving up to 800, 900 million declarations somewhere in 2023, having one client offering 200,000 declarations a day, and then still thinking in a system which is based on transactional based declaration processing, and customs being demanded to check 5 or 10% of each of those declaration lines physically. Now, the calculation is simple. The Netherlands has 17 million inhabitants, and I think we would need them all to employ them with customs when we want to check 5% of all cargo. So indeed, the rethinking, I absolutely support that. But now looking a little bit into the crisis, the COVID time in the past few months, was there any particular solution that you already had on the shelf that would have been accelerated enormously in terms of implementation in the past period?
Well, I believe that we have seen that collaboration platforms are the ones that win in this space, no, during the COVID situation, no. We see a lot of open sources platform as well, proprietary ones, no. That is something that is going to grow and is going to change the behavior, how we interact in between each other. In the morning, I was hearing the importance and the relevance of the interoperability of the information in between agencies, but also in between actors with these ecosystems. So I believe that collaboration is going to be a key factor, evolving factor, and it's going to be embedded in the processes that today are part of the operations in the customs space. But moving to the data, which is the main concern, I believe that technologies like artificial intelligence, blockchain, are going to be the main actors in this new era. No, we think that the skilling process in the customs is something that we have to accelerate. That's part of our investments as a technology company. Know how to help customs administrations to adopt and adapt in a very agile manner those new technologies as part of their processes. And we believe that with a lot of these new technologies, not only how we catch the data based upon the IoT devices, but also how we can help to analyze those data in a real-time manner, that you can help and that you can have a very a risk model that is very accurate on time and in a very transactional way. No? And we cannot put aside, Frank, that there is a huge amount of responsibility with these new technologies as well. We have to ensure that all the platforms that are going to be consolidating this amount of data should be secure, should be open, transparent, but also, most important, trusted ones. No, that's the main concern, and that's something that we are working closely with this ecosystem. That I believe that is the one that is going to take full advantage and accelerate the pace in the future years.
That's, I can absolutely imagine. Thank you for this answer. Looking at data, you manage data analysis for risk management. I think what also is still needs to be discussed, whether you do this risk management and creating models, whether you do this sidewise on historical data and then implement the models on your actual data flow, or that you start applying the models on the actual and even do the analytics on the actual data flow. This is also two different approaches where we still have to learn a bit. On the one side from a security perspective, but on the other side, of course, from the continuity demands on regular operations. And it's nice to talk about analytics applying on everything, but sometimes it may slow down, and predictability for international trade is, of course, of vital importance. They need to know that the thing goes, the flow moves on, and we heard just Korean colleagues saying 24 hours availability is vital.
That's completely right, Frank. We have seen that in the financial sector. How can you balance the risk assessment of a transaction without interrupting the transaction itself? No, because business is there. And we as Microsoft as well, we are a trading company. Remember that you have a lot of e-commerce across the world. No, we have developed also internally our own tools in order to manage the risk assessment of each one of our transactions worldwide, no, without for sure jeopardizing, no, our commerce, our e-commerce, no. So I believe that the customs space, the technology is there, the models can be built. It's trying to push a little bit and move ahead and begin doing those innovations slowly but immediately, no? And the COVID-19 helped a little bit the customs to accelerate that pace. And that's something that we are really enthusiastic on that. We are more than happy to support in those customs organizations that are willing to take some proof of concept, which is the first step of the first approach to begin testing the new technologies in small scenarios, begin trying them, no, maturity them, building on top of their own processes, but take a little bit the risk of doing that. Otherwise, if another, which I don't expect, no, situation or contingency like this happens, you are a little bit ready, no, or more ready on that.
No, thank you. I think I already went into one of the questions that was in the box. It was from Peru, and it said technology is based on information to make decisions. However, is there an access of data generated with errors that can lead to a bad decision? Do you think it's time to promote data governance standards in the WCO? It's already what we discussed previously a little bit. Because data analytics and modeling leads to a number of output, which could also be much too high even to cope with.
And that part I love, Frank, because I believe WCO has done a great job with the data model that that WCO has already published and tried to implement. I think that is something that is going to be being adopted on this journey, And as much as we go through this journey, the need to have unique standards in order to share information, in order to be sure that what data is the one that we have to share, if it's trusted or not, if it's secure or not, that's something that we are going to be learning in the pace of this transformation journey. No?
One final question, and maybe you already put a point to that referring to the IoT, but how do you see the future of the world of technologies, in particular for border management?
Well, first of all, borders should be frictionless and no any single paper. No? So as long as we can allow the interoperability or the transactions move on in a digital way, there will not be this target. I mean, what Microsoft sees and with Microsoft wants is most of our border management should be zero contact or contactless. No, that's really important. So here is where IoT comes into the picture, whether if it's video surveillance cameras, whether if it's dynamic scale, whether if it's X-ray, whether if it's any type of device that can help to ensure that we are having the cross of our borders with a very good risk assessment, taking the data from those devices. This is one important thing. But the second important thing is how we can ensure that with blockchain technologies, for instance, those informations are being shared in between the countries in a secure manner, no? Or in the ecosystem that we have to share those informations. And most important, as we were discussing already, the artificial intelligence. There is something that maybe we have not discussed yet, but we believe that also have you heard about our technology that has to see especially with images, no? So we believe that there is a huge space on that for modernization. So answering your question is that technology is gonna be embedded with no single question as part of the modernization in customs agencies. Maybe the reflection here is how are they, or how are we can help together in this ecosystem as private as public sector to accelerate this pace in order that we can have borders that can make more agile the pass of the goods, the pass of the people in a secure manner, and protect the safety of our countries.
And we fully agree on this. I think there's a big challenge to go. There are a lot of opportunities and technologies to have humanless border crossings instead of from an inspection perspective. You also mentioned in the beginning of your statement a little bit about paper. Unfortunately, there is still a lot of paper to move around the world. That's not the World Customs Organization. They've been driving data models since a long time, but we see that in other areas of required to certain goods, we still see paper-based certificates. And that's also an absolute need to have those international organizations speed up with digitization of their processes. We have to move on to the next speaker. It's all short interviews, and again, we could go for hours like this. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you so much.
And the next session is with Dr. John. He's the CEO from NUTEC, and that's a pre-recorded interview. Okay, thank you. Our next and last speaker actually is Professor John Chen. And Professor Chen is president and chairman of NUTEC, and he is a prestigious professor and a doctoral supervisor at Tsinghua University. He's highly recognized, and he chairs the Nuclear Technology Research Institute and the National Engineering Laboratory for Dangerous Articles and Explosion Detection Technologies. And he's also serving as an executive director of the Chinese Society of Stereology and the China Isotope and Radiation Association. And with having over 20 years of experience, we have a well-served speaker among us. Dr. Chen, what do you think will be the impact of the COVID-19 on the cross-border flow of cargo and customs control?
COVID-19 has caused profound impacts on our life. Teleworking, social distance, border lockdowns have led to major disruptions to the normal life. During the pandemic, customers are facing increasing challenges. They are required to secure and facilitate the flow of essential goods, like medical supplies, while some of them are also responsible to fend off imported cases of infection, making sure inbound travelers do not serve as carrier for virus. COVID-19 has taken customs into an all-rounded battlefield. We fight not only against illegal flow of people and cargo, but also against infection risks of the workforce and the general public.
Thank you very much. Indeed, the import of medical supplies was a very high need and still is at the moment. And indeed, checking the people, whether they're carrying the virus by measuring their temperature is in the cross-border flow of people is also a role in customs control. Did you have introduced specific COVID-19 technologies as a company? And if yes, are these already deployed in administrations?
During the pandemic, NewTech stood by our customers and tackled these challenges. We put our R&D team to the front line, working day and night, side by side with field officials, to develop a variety of anti-pandemic solutions to help with their fight against COVID-19. Among them, FeverBlock, an AI-powered infrared camera, finds out suspects with high temperatures. Add-on modules is also available to be integrated with existing security scanners, like a metal detector, millimeter wave body scanner, or access control e-gate, to deliver a seamless and unobtrusive health screening. Convertible quarantine solution, WeSpace, was developed to host the suspect case before the medical assistance arrives. With special material and compact in size, it is quick to relocate it to any flash points within minutes, making it ideal to respond to new cases across the venue. To address the need for health declaration and contact tracing, NewTech also worked with our Chinese customer to design and implement an e-platform PVM'd within 17 days as an alternative to manually collect and manage health-related data of inbound travelers. It cuts the time of processing to a half and helps customers to quickly respond to new positives. 2020 has shown that COVID-19 really knows no bounds. Sporadic cases in China have shown that some special goods, like cold chain food, could also cause virus spreading to a bigger community. To close this gap, NewTech joined with our customer to launch and deploy 10 units of on-site disinfection systems within 1 month.
That's very interesting that you managed to set up R&D in anti-pandemic solutions. And indeed, what we already mentioned, the fever temperature measuring, but also launching within 17 days a platform to manage data of inbound travelers is a really big achievement. What I find particularly interesting in your answer actually is that you also are working on technologies that can detect the virus being carried by cargo. This actually was rather new to me. Have you got any other innovative solutions to assist customs to fight against COVID-19, but that was at the same time indeed safeguarding the global supply chain and of course facilitating the legal flow of cargo?
COVID-19 is more than just a short disturbance. It has changed our life and work and ushered us into a new normal. We believe automation would be the game changer. It will empower customers with some agility and resilience for the future. Fully automated NII systems are available now to protect frontline officials with reduced contacts. Transform-like scanner, NewTek MI6000DE can perform automatically scanning in all seniors with its nimble moves. With computer tomography, FG9000DT has introduced 3D perspective and rich information to image analysis. It allows for precise threat detection, quick decision-making, and reduce manual checking. By integrating scanner into logistic process and shifting scanning backstage, we help some Asian customs redesign and streamline inbound baggage control process to realize a detection rate of 100%. The inline process slashes the time for customs clearance by a half, improves travel experience, and protects frontline officials with minimized interaction with travelers and their belongings.
Indeed, you're absolutely right. The automated NII technologies, they not only assist customs in faster detection of all kinds of risks, but at the same time, indeed, they keep the goods away from the people, and you do not need to approach the goods anymore as officials, which also contributes very much to the safeguarding of the people themselves. Looking at all these aspects of the pandemic, how important is it, in your opinion, for governments and all industry partners to join up, to work together to attack the post-COVID-19 era?
COVID-19 has proven the power of technology in face of the disruptions. During the pandemic, automated NII systems help customs continue with their screening in a safe manner, while AI-powered automatic algorithm assisted officials to analyze the cargo with more precision and flexibility. It can find tiny differences in density and formation of cargo, and automatically alarms misdeclaration, concealed contrabands, or dangerous goods. Field trials have shown positive detection results. Dozens of cargo can be automatically analyzed with an accuracy of more than 1980%. Looking ahead, we believe automation of operation and intelligent data analysis would be key for customs community to weather through the difficult times and manage the changing landscape for post-pandemic era. Extraordinary times call for extraordinary actions. Through the darkness, NewTek has been and would always be there for you, searching for the light, side by side with you, with our relentless innovation comes enabling technologies and solutions that would convert challenges into opportunities for an even brighter future.
That's a very fine closing statement, Dr. Chan. Extraordinary times ask for extraordinary actions. indeed, we have been working and developing, and we've seen this happening, that algorithms are already able to detect certain densities and formation of goods. We are demanding parties, you are the building party. And I completely share your opinion that we absolutely have to join forces to adapt what is coming ahead of us. Again, thank you very much for your contribution. So we can look back to 4 interviews, short 10-minute questions from the industry sector and from the customs sector, from the data side and from the technology side. Thank you very much, and I give the floor back to Milena.
Thank you very much, Frank, and a big thanks also to all the speakers for sharing their thoughts on the key challenges and opportunities in times of crisis. We will now move to the video break provided by our platinum sponsor, NewTech. Thanks, Frank.
In a few minutes, we will be moving to the second topic of the TechCon, which is inspection equipment and officer safety. But just before that, we move to the panel discussion. We would like to start with the Find the Contraband competition organized by our corporate sponsor. You have received the rules of the game by email, and also this morning I posted these rules in the activity feed. Before you move to the activity feed, please listen to the explanations, because once you leave the live streaming, you will not be hearing me. So what is the game? Each day, the daily prize will be a CertScan branded Beats headphone, and on Friday, we will award the big prize, which is a license for the blended threat image analysis course. Here's an explanation what you need to do. In the activity feed in a minute, we will post an X-ray image and give you 90 seconds to find the anomaly, or in other words, the contraband hidden in the cargo on the image. You cannot circle parts of the image or manipulate it in some other way. What you need to do is type your answer in the activity feed, describing where you think the contraband is hidden. The first correct answer will be rewarded. And remember that in the rules for the games, it is written that participants must comply with the ethics rule of participants, employees, and applicable law. So if you are not allowed to receive a prize, the daily prize value is $200 and the grand prize value is $2,500. Please do not post your answer in the activity feed. So now we invite you to move to the activity feed, where my colleague Ludovic will post the first X-ray image, and from the moment he posts, you will have 90 seconds to provide your answer where the contraband is hidden in the image. See you back in the live stream in about 2 minutes. Is there a delay?
What are we looking at?
Okay, thank you very much for participating. We will announce the winner as well as post the image with the circled contraband at the end of today's session. So stay with us till the end so that you can hear where the contraband was hidden. I would like now to introduce the moderator of our panel discussion on inspection equipment and officer safety. This is Mr. Will van Heeswijk, who has more than 26 years of experience working for the European Commission. Will is responsible for security technology developments, customs control equipment, and the implementation of smart border and supply chain security measures, including research and innovation. He is also the chairperson of the EU Customs Detection Technology Project Group. Will, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Vera, and hello, good day to everybody, distinguished guests, dear colleagues of the global customs community. It's great to have you all here in this WCO TECH CON and your interest in this panel session on inspection equipment and officer safety in times of this pandemic crisis. I think you agree with me that we all noticed and felt that the COVID-19 virus travels fast and it doesn't care at all about borders around the globe. And this pandemic crisis urged the customs community to adapt their daily operations and business processes very rapidly. First, in order to facilitate cross-border movements of essential pharmaceuticals, personal protective equipment, face masks, and critical healthcare equipment such as breathing equipment. Secondly, as customs is a control organization, they have to ensure that the customs control operations could continue in a secure and safe manner, ensuring safety for both the custom officers, but also for the economic operators and travelers. And this is exactly the topic which is at the center of the discussion in this panel. So I really hope you stay with us for the next hour to hear insights from 4 excellent and knowledgeable speakers from different continents around the globe, representing customs authorities, industry, research, and these panelists, they will tell us their stories about how they responded, what measures that they need to take to implement and to adapt to this unprecedented crisis situation. As I said, we have 4 speakers in this panel, and I would like to introduce the first speaker and panelist, which is Mr. Abel Kagurime, Commissioner of Customs from the Uganda Revenue Authority. Mr. Kagurime holds a master's degree in population and reproductive health and business administration in entrepreneurship and strategic management. Mr. Kagurime served the Uganda Revenue Authority already for more than 19 years, and very recently he has been appointed as the Commissioner of Customs. Mr. Kagurime will tell us about the use of inspection equipment and officer safety at Uganda Revenue Authority in the wake of this COVID-19 crisis. I would like to invite to Mr. Kagurime to deliver his presentation and speech.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Van. My name is Abel Kagumile, the Commissioner for Customs at URA. Sorry for the brief interruption. Just to say I'm happy to be here and to say in terms of COVID-19 impact on Uganda's trade, Uganda is a landlocked country, and we are neighbored by South Sudan and Kenya and Tanzania and Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. So when COVID broke out, then we had to make sure we use a lot of technology to counter this. In 2007, of course, we had already equipped our borders with non-intrusive inspection equipment in form of back scatters, forward scatters, and smart checks. But also we got a grant from NUCTEC we managed to get 2 mobile scanners. And as I speak now, we also have fixed um, scanners at our busy borders of Malaba and Busia. And our officers have not been more into physical examination of cargo because of these scanners, X-ray scanners, and the cargo has been moving steadily. The latest ones at our busiest borders have been able to scan about 200 trucks per hour. And we make sure every cargo goes through the scanner, and then we do a second tier check on the images at our centralized command center. And at the borders, of course, we also had challenges of working with other government agencies, I think, which were not ready in terms of technology. When COVID-19 broke in around March and April of this year, so the port health seemed not ready, because at our borders we would receive about 2,500 trucks a day at Busia and Malaba. And yet the instruction was that cargo must continue moving. So we did not stop cargo from moving. And so what we did was to make sure we work with the port health officials and working with our headquarter Ministry of Health to make sure we install laboratories at our borders, because we could not allow truck drivers to enter into our country without a COVID-19 free test certificate. So technology has really helped us a lot. We had stopped the use of barcode readers. Now we revived them for every consignment that enters, because we did not want our frontline officers to touch the documents. And so after the Ministry of Health had established the laboratories at the borders, now again we witnessed a huge congestion at the borders, because the truck drivers really wanted to come in and be tested, and then they wait for results, and we felt it was serious congestion. So we came up with another system called the Regional Electronic Cargo Tracking and Driver Tracking System, whereby at the ports of Mombasa, the truck drivers are tested for COVID-19, and then the results are sent electronically to Uganda. And then in Uganda, by the time the truck driver arrives at the border, we assure this truck driver has tested and is free of COVID, and we allow them to proceed. So this has solved the congestion that we had managed to get at our borders. But we're looking into the future, of course. We feel now this is the time, because we had already enrolled on the electronic single window platform as well, which is a system that brings together all the government agencies that work at our borders. So customs is the lead agency at these borders. So we make sure that all the systems for other government agencies, be it health, be it agriculture, be it the drug authorities, be it the standards people, are logged onto our system called as CUDA World. And so they are able to work through the system, they are able to target and the items they're interested in on the system, unlike before, where they would want to do physical inspections. So technology has helped us in that area. In terms of looking to the future, we think with COVID-19, which is still around with us, we are entering the phase of beyond the non-intrusive inspection, X-ray scanners, to look at unmanned aerial vehicles in form of using drone technology, GIS. And because we are a landlocked country, we have so many porous borders around us. So we feel the unmanned aerial vehicles will help us get us information at our borders quickly and faster. We've already done the procurement for the short-range drones, and we are also going to procure the long-range drones. At our airports, we are the pioneers of GTAS under the Global Travel Assessment System, and already airlines are already enrolled onto this program. So where we're able to get pre-arrival information before the passengers arrive and cargo arrive, and we think this is the way to go. But we still face a few challenges because our people still believe in manual systems, especially our traders, and most of the supply chains are not yet automated, especially the supply and buyer documentation. So we feel that's an area we need to upgrade to so that everything can be done online and we're able to support our buyers and in case of disruptions in the supply chains so that our people are able to access other markets on where they can buy these goods. Otherwise, the future is bright with technology. We are looking forward to improving the existing technology and get more. Uganda customs has so many porous borders and borders which are with our neighboring countries. So non-intrusive inspection, we are trying to make sure every budget, every year, we put money aside to be able to buy new equipment that we will install at our borders. Thank you, Van.
Thank you, Mr. Kaburime, for this very interesting insight in how you coped with these crises, and also the solution you sketched, where you ask already for drivers coming in with the trucks in Mombasa. You do there a check in order to have the data when they will arrive at the Uganda border. I think that's a very clever solution, I would say. I see now also that you are disappearing from the screen. I would also like to invite that all the panelists will remain on screen. So please do not disappear. It's nice to have you all together in the panel. At the end of all the sessions, if time still allows, we would perhaps be able to take some questions. But thank you once again for giving your insights. And I understand that as a landlocked border with long borders, it's difficult to monitor, to have surveillance there. So it's good to even also look into, for example, into the use of drones. Having said that, I would like to go to our next speaker in this panel, which is Mr. Adel Al-Suwaidi. He is the Director of a Technical Support Department of Dubai Customs. And Mr. Al-Suwaidi is responsible for developing, implementing, and managing all the technical requirements of Dubai customs inspection, and ensuring that all the essentials have been met in a timely and effective manner for all customs inspection centers all over Dubai borders. I would also like to stress that Mr. Al-Suwaidi was also granted several innovations awards in the field of improving customs inspections and detection capability. So Mr. Al-Suwaidi will give us an insight in how innovative technological solutions can contribute not only to facilitate trade, but also to ensure fair revenue collection and contribution to security and safety as well. So I would like to give the floor to Mr. Abdel Al-Suwaidi of Dubai Customs. Please. Mrs. Odegaard, would that be okay for you that we take your presentation now and then we go back to Mr. Al-Suwaidi afterwards? I think that's best that's the best way to proceed. So We will now hear from Melissa Odegaard. She leads the management, or she's the marketing director of S2 Global, and Melissa leads the management of the company's global marketing initiatives. And she works with cross-functional teams to produce high-quality marketing programs to communicate the company's vision. Melissa is graduated with honors from the Pratt Institute of Design in New York, and she will present their security integration platform, CertScan, and she tell us also about how it was relatively easy to add health screening capabilities, including an elevated body temperature detection solution, which was widely used throughout North America and the Caribbean, allowing for the continuation of activities during this pandemic crisis. So the floor is for Melissa Odegaard, please.
Good day, everybody. I'm really excited to be here today, talking to you and being with these distinguished colleagues. A number of people who spoke before me were discussing different types of technologies that they implemented either during the pandemic or would like to be able to implement during a time of crises. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is the way that we handle it and what we have done during the pandemic and ways that you can start thinking about it to be able to quickly deploy technology into your inspection operation. Okay, so where are we today? There were a number of reactions to the COVID-19 pandemic, and I say that meaning they were reactions. It was fast coming, and we all had to think rather quickly, so we immediately closed down. We provided PPE, and we all started to add technology. And I was thinking today, like, how far have we gone? Like, where have we done a good job? Well, I think a lot of us can provide PPE, and that's probably the easiest, quickest way that we can protect our people during this time so that they can continue to do work. The next thing we have to do is figure out how to add technology faster. And what are our issues that we have? Some of the issues that we have are that we've got a lot of systems operating by themselves. They're in silos. We have a lot of data. We have a lot of databases. We have people who may be not trained or thinking about how these things can work together. So they're not able to make high quality, high information decisions. They have maybe limited database resources. And then we have a lot of pieces of equipment that have their own, silos of data with manual controls. It's difficult to share information from there, and continuously adding them just adds on your cost, which is not really what we're looking to do. We're looking to save money or at least find a way to generate some revenue, with what we do. So even before the pandemic, change was already here. We have new generations coming up in our industry, in our organizations, in our agencies. They're young, they know technology, they've always used it. So they're highly aware of what kind of technology is out there. They're starting to rethink outdated norms. They want everything at their fingertips, right? Ready to go. And it should be available. And I think one of the most important things is that there's an expectation of, easy accessibility of information. Like you should be able to see what's going on right from an easy to use interface. You should be able to record it, measure it, make improvements on it. And a really big thing is you should be able to share that information with other people. So how do you actually get to the next step? I'm just going to talk a little bit about things you can start thinking of to help you organize, having a digital transformation that's successful. And I think the first thing we can do when we speak to people who are purchasing the actual hardware and equipment and working with databases such as Asicura or any of the other logistics databases out there is you really just have to kind of take a look at the landscape of what you have and take an inventory of your technology. You know, what is in your communication systems? What's in your logistics? You know, what is your single window system doing? And to do all this inventory, you really need to start engaging, you know, other stakeholders. We've been working a lot with the IT departments at organizations because, you know, they're a huge part of this digital transformation, and bringing the IT department, the inspection department, all the different departments together is key to success. So what do you want to do next? You really want to think about, like, what is your purpose? Like, yes, as a customs organization, you need to, you know, be able to process all the paperwork that's coming in. But in the end, you know, you're really working for people and trade and companies that are crossing borders. You're trying to facilitate, you know, a seamless experience for them so that they can get in and out of the country or ship things in and out of the country very fast. You definitely want a safe environment for your own staff, and you want to be able to deploy the right technology at the right time in order to meet your first and second mandates. So start with the end in mind. What are you actually trying to accomplish by integrating new technology very easily? The first thing, or the second thing you want to do after you know, take an inventory of, like, what are all the systems that you're looking at, is you want to start collaborating with your stakeholders. One of the most powerful things that we're coming up against in digital transformation is the ability to actually share information with, you know, peripheral stakeholders that also are able to use the information we might have to make their work easier and better and faster and more comprehensive. So start to collaborate with your stakeholders in the different businesses, including industry, including trade, including the, you know, trucking companies, even your own internal government organizations, so that with your inventory and with their buy-in, you're all starting to work on the same page and looking at how, you know, integrating all these systems will help your country. Okay. Then the other thing you want to take a look at is, like, who are the people within your organization that are doing the work and what do they need to accomplish? So you want to look at it from a human-centric point of view and come up with different ways that you can help people do their job quickly, leverage the automation, leverage the data that you're capturing, and really give each role only what they need to see so that they can perform their duties and their job quickly and seamlessly. And then you want to be able to, you know, have a system where your supervisors and your stakeholders can actually see the entire operation from one view. So not only do you have, you know, a human-based process where each stakeholder is getting what they need at the exact time they need it with the equipment that they have, but then you want your supervisors to be able to watch that process live and in real time. Okay. So in the end, when you actually look at those things, you're starting to develop and deploy a system that works for everybody. And when you do that, you get a new integration that has improvements, you know, and it's constant. You're making improvements, you're training your people, you're using information to make decisions. The actions become automated. You're able to manage the whole operation from one interface. And again, you loop around, and from that management, you're able to make improvements. So the data is driving your intelligence, it's driving your operations, and it's really making a seamless experience for the people who need to enter using your systems. Okay. So with everything right at your fingertips, you can communicate with your stakeholders, adjust your logistics, you can train and relocate staff quickly, you can change your traffic routing, you can add technology rapidly, you can increase capacity easily, you can activate health information systems very fast, and continue revenue collection. And this is really important when we come up against things like a pandemic, where you have to be able to deploy, you know, new technology, elevated body temperature, detection systems, whether on a mass scale, on an individual scale, those systems have to comply with, complicated health requirements and privacy information. So, being able to deploy that into your process that you have very quickly is key to thinking about how you're going to put your integration system together. Okay. So I just wanted to ask, you to think about, like, what could you do if you had your hardware systems, your inspection systems, your custom systems, your immigration systems, all of that information working in sync. And I wanted to leave you with that thought for you to think about for the rest of the conference. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Melissa, for that. And yeah, I like to see developments also on the industry side where we come to a higher degree of integration of different systems and parts of systems, standalone equipment, and make these things talk to each other, communicate to each other, and help our officers to support in their decision making. As a matter of time, because these are all topics which we could speak an entire conference about it, we will move to our next speaker, which will be Tony Manisto from the Cross-Border Research Agency. Tony is a researcher and consultant in supply chain security and trade facilitation. Tony holds a PhD in management and of technology from the University in Lausanne. And Tony will guide us this afternoon, tell us a bit more about a number of Horizon 2020 security research projects which are relevant in the customs and border management domain. So the floor is yours, Mr. Tony Manisto.
Good day, everyone. Many thanks, Will, for the introduction, and many thanks for the organizers for giving me this opportunity to present three fascinating EU projects that tackle contemporary customs challenges. So let me just launch the presentation. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, it's visible. Go ahead, please.
Perfect. This presentation is about three customs and border security projects that are funded under the Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Program of the European Union. So let's take a look at the three projects. First of all, we have a pan-European network of customs practitioners, PEN-CP. That's a novel customs innovation boosting network and online platform that provides valuable innovation intermediary services. We have 13 customs partners from around Europe as partners. We started in September 2018, and it's a 3-year project. And the goal of this, or one of the goals of this project, is to identify needs of customs innovation across a variety of topics, including detection technologies, data and risk, and laboratory equipment. The second project is known as Profile. The project focuses on upgrading data analytics capabilities and improving the use of risk-relevant data sources for customs risk management. We have 5 European customs partners and 14 partners in total, including research institutes and technology suppliers and academic partners. We started in summer 2018, and Profile is a 3-year project as well. Then we have Arecipo that focuses on border guard operations, and the goal is to strengthen situational awareness in the border security domain through technologies like augmented reality and the use of unmanned vehicles. We have 20 partners, including many border guards. We started in May 2019, and this is a 3-year project as well. Let's take a look at one of the innovation instruments that we have in the pan-European network of customs practitioners. We are organizing PenCP Customs Innovation Awards every year. That's open for the 13 PenCP Customs partners. Last year, the UK Border Force won the award of Best Innovation. Their competition entry was using a human security radar to screen passengers on the move. For the 2020 edition of the Customs Innovation Award, we are focusing on themes of novel approaches to cope with the growing international e-commerce traffic and future opportunities with mobile laboratory capabilities. In PenCP, we publish a magazine where we feature detailed articles on PenCP innovation instruments. So I invite all of you to visit our website and download the most recent issue of PenCP magazine there. For the interest of the global customs community, PenCP is also organizing Global Customs Innovation Award. That will be focusing on data quality, and we are aiming to launch the award in early 2021, so early next year. We are looking at best proven solutions that have been field tested in operational customs environment, but we are also looking at more ambitious, innovative, and not yet tested ideas how to improve data quality. We are looking at different dimensions of data quality, for example, accuracy, completeness of data sets, timeliness of data, and then how we could promote standardization of customs data elements even further. Let's take a look at Profile, the second project. Here, among many other activities, we are designing new training materials and exercises on customs data analytics and quantitative models. We have a plan in place already. We want to design exercises on realistic problems that customs officers face. For example, targeting officers might have access to many different data sets, but they might face some problems of linking these data sets reliably. So we are going to design some exercises that guide them through this linking process. Our target audiences include customs officers with data analytics background and also data analytics experts that are new to customs. We will use Canvas online e-learning platform to provide them the exercises for the customs community. And at the moment, we are at the stages of designing and piloting training materials, and we are very interested in getting feedback from customs from around the world, and we are going to publish the training materials by the end of 2021. Also, we would like to invite WCO to explore options for collaborating on development of training material. We could identify 1 or 2 topics to build joint exercises, for example. Then we are looking at to feature essential elements of operations research and operations management, and try to translate key principles into customs contexts, so that customs could speed up the inspection process and achieve higher efficiencies in their operations. We are looking also at how customs could be exploiting data sources that are external to customs, for example, container booking data sets from the private sector, or maybe addressing databases or databases including financial information that could be leveraged for customs risk management purposes, and our officers would need to receive some training how to do that. And of course, we are open to any other ideas. Okay. The third project, Arecipo. The key question here is that how can augmented reality and unmanned vehicles contribute to border management and controls? We are looking at a set of interesting technologies in the field of augmented reality. We are talking about smart glasses, training simulators, or different applications that could be embedded in handheld devices that customs officers use to inspect goods. The other technology theme in Arecibo are unmanned vehicles. So we would like to design and test solutions by air, by land, and by sea that would help border guards and why not customs to better understand what's going on at the border at the given time. We would also at some point in the project to launch a survey with customs to collect information that how can these technologies support customs border control activities. And then also how could we improve collaboration between customs agencies and border control and border guard authorities. I invite you to visit project website, and I also encourage you to send me email if you want to get more information. Here I have also compiled some online addresses that allow you to follow our free projects. And to summarize this presentation regarding a pan-European network of customs practitioners, we are about to launch Global Customs Innovation Award 2021. So please keep your eyes open, and we will be informing customs around the world about this opportunity. In profile, we would like to get information about your needs and ideas for future data analytics training and how to develop relevant material for customs people. And in Arecibo, please stay tuned for border surveillance technology updates and also take part in user need surveys that we might be launching in 2021. So that's a brief introduction to the free projects, and that's my presentation today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tony Ministro, for your a quick and short overview of 3 relevant projects which can definitely serve the customs community to be better prepared for the future, and you provided the different links so distinguished guests can go there to find more relevant information. I would like now to go back to Mr. Adel Al-Suwaidi of Dubai Customs to tell us about the innovation projects and how you secured safety of your officers during this crisis. We have to stick to now about 7-8 minutes time frame, because I was also informed that soon our interpreters, who are doing a wonderful job, they will stop around 3:30. So Mr. Adel Al-Suwaidi, the floor is yours, please.
Okay, it will be the 3 things what I would like to introduce here, actually, the innovation what we have, which asked from WCO to present it, that 3 things, actually one of them, it's, we call it, I don't know if you can see it here at least, okay, this is one of the things, what I'm gonna just produce it, here, this one of the things, okay, we call this one, we call it the inspection shield, this one of the things. The second thing, which will be just, I would like to give you the flavor of the things what was gonna show to this one, the passage safe, this is the second thing. The third thing, it will be the custom mega scanning. This one, the third thing. Okay. Regarding to the points here, I'm gonna come back to it. Okay, what I was like, Dubai Custom Innovation 2020, Dubai Custom developed 32 disruptive innovation and achieved 14 innovation awards in 2020. Our Mr. Mahmoud Ahmed Mahbub Sabbih, Director General of Dubai Customs, said prioritization innovation today is essential to unlock past criteria of the prosperity and growth here. Dubai Customs has worked seriously to turn innovation into a daily practice, following a wise vision of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister and ruler of Dubai. The innovation was talking about here, the first one, custom safe passage booth. The custom safe passage booth was a new innovation that was repeatedly implemented to battle the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's efficiently disinfectors and it sanitizers the inspectors and the visitors clients without any negative health effective using the advanced motion sensing and handheld free technology. The custom safe passage booth was fully developed by Dubai Custom, and it was first government organization entity which has implemented such initiatives. It has a lot of features actually. Some of this feature, full body automatic sanitizing spray, motion sensing, and it has motion sensing water tap, and it has thermal scanners as well and cameras. Okay, from tangible perspective of these innovations, actually, it's protect the both inspectors and customers, okay, from the risk of infections. And what I'm referring to, it's, I don't know if you can see it on the screen. This is the both sheet what we are talking about. Prevention of any loss of time and delay due to the previous manual and lengthy convention sanitizing and safety measure, ensuring the steady flow of the custom operation and trades. That from an intangible perspective, the custom and inspector happiness and satisfaction, well-being and safety and trust and confidence of the custom, Dubai custom trades. From the perspective of the second ideas, which was the shield, which was being implemented, we call it the inspection shield, an innovation via safety platforms implemented in midst of the COVID-19 pandemic to protect both inspectors and passengers from risk of contamination of infections from the virus as well as any another harmful substance. It was used, the inspector, to inspect the passenger luggage and goods, and has multiple features that streamline over the inspection. Its feature has a range of protective equipments and devices, which is integrated into the platform of the act and barrier between the inspectors and the passengers. The third one, it is the custom mega scanners, the WordPass custom mega scanner with the most powerful scanning capability available today, which can scan exceedingly large vehicle and cargo. It can operate in the moving gantry mode, and it can drive through modes. It has powerful penetration through the thickness steels and wire cargo and container used today. It contains of multiple innovation features, such as material discrimination using artificial intelligence, license plates number and container code recognition and RFID reader, advanced radiation sensing and sensoring, and driver scan avoidance. This type of implementation, we use it in the COVID-19, so it will help. It was really the first of its kind in the world, combination of visit amount of the technology, advance and the feature and the facilitation, and one of the integrated system with the transform of the way of the custom perform and scanning inspections. It's got a lot of benefits. From the tangible benefits perspective, can scan the world's largest vehicle and enhance the detection rate, and it's integrated within declaration system, speed up the custom procedure, increase vehicle throughput and tracking meaning more process transformation and more vehicle go through. And intangible benefits, which is get custom and inspector happiness and satisfaction, increase the inspector efficiency and protect the society and prohibited from prohibited items.
Thank you very much. And I would also like to thank all the panelists for giving their insight, because we are really running a bit behind time. So there's not time left for any Q&A sessions, but very grateful for your insights from both the customs side, from Uganda Customs Revenue Authority, from Dubai Customs, from the industry, from S2 Global, and from the Cross-Border Research Association. I think all the material at a later stage will be made available on the appropriate websites, so the people who are interested in your products, technologies, solutions, they will find ways to reach out to you. And I think also this conference, we proved that as detection and innovation experts, we prove resilience, we prove that we can remain connected, and we will continue to ensure our borders and supply chains with the help of all together. And with this, I will close this panel session and give back to the beautiful assistants of the WCO, Milena and Vaya, for taking us further in this day. And from my side, I would also thank the interpreters and apologize for the delay of the session. Thank you very much, and back to the WCO.
Thank you very much, Leo, and to all the speakers. Indeed, as usual, after the event, we will upload all slides on the event website. With this, we have come to the end of day one, but before parting for the day, I would like to announce the winner of the daily prize under the Find the Contraband competition, and this is Fabrula Lisa Marie, who posted her reply in French, but it was the first correct reply in the activity feed. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow at noon Brussels time, when we will discuss the topic of electronic services and paperless trade. Before parting, you can see the answer to the game in the activity feed. So you will have the same image, but showing where the contraband was. So tomorrow, noon Brussels time, for the second day of the TECH CON. Until then, keep safe and see you tomorrow.